right, hello everybody. I'm hoping this is working. I have my phone turned backwards because the camera apparently is better on the back of the phone, and I can get a little bit more of this lateral space in, and I'm trying to watch you guys on my laptop, but it's not working very well. So I'm hoping everybody is doing okay tonight and able to connect into this. And I have forgotten to push the play button a number of times on these, so I might be getting up and down to check that, and then we'll get started with our class. So if any of you can see me right now, there is a sun salutation in the class that I'm just going to take right out of the IYTA manual. So if it's something you want to refer back to at any point, it's on page 124 in the IYTA manual. And then at the end of the class, I'm going to pull a little reading from the Wheels of Life. So nice little passage about our lovely chakras. So I'm going to get up and see if I'm actually recording, and then we'll figure it out from there. I might need glasses for that. This is like the most professional video ever. Yay! I can see you watching on my phone and not on my laptop. So I think I'm going to close that so I don't freak myself out. All right, so also tonight, Amber is going to be joining us. So Amber was a 300-hour grad from Mackenzie, so welcome, Amber. And she's been quarantined for a little while after vacation, and then coming back to Mackenzie, and then just loving isolation like the rest of us. So Amber, I hope that this inspires you to film some of your own classes. So this is just live stream, but you can do it on Zoom, you can do it directly off your camera and upload it to other platforms. So yeah, have fun with it. It's a period of time where we get to do lots of bloopers. So to start our class, I wanted to share a little reading from the Radiant Sutras. So the Radiant Sutras are really beautiful. It's a publication. It's based on an old traditional poem. And our keynote speaker for the Soy conference this year was going to be doing the whole conference based on the Radiant Sutras, and unfortunately that is had to be rescheduled till next year. And I'd started to work on something for that, so I thought I'd bring it in because it ties in really nicely with your chakras work and the 200-hour training. So bear with me, I'm going to try and read this passage in Sanskrit and then translate it in English. And the really, what I kind of like, what I get a kick out of with the Radiant Sutras is the whole poem or story is kind of a love song between Shiva and Shakti. And so Shakti, at the beginning of the poem, kind of wakes up and looks up and realizes, has an awareness of her own, that she is a creation, and looks up at Shiva and starts to ask questions about the meaning of life, and Shiva starts to answer her. And it's very tantric and sensual and beautiful, and it ends up with a passage that is about the chakras. So that's what I want to read to you. So krama dvadashakam samyak dvadasha akshara veritam stula sukshma para stitya muktva amuktva anahata shiva. So the English translation: let your attention glide through the centers of awareness along the spine with adoring intent. There's a song to each area of the body, resonating in sweet vortices, long rhythmic vowels and hums. And resounding on and on. Find the harmonies emanating from the circulation of life energies. Listen to these sounds, then more subtly as an underlying hum, eventually as most subtle feeling, then diving deeply, dissolve into freedom. So our chakras have seed sounds associated with them, and also in your IYTA manual, page 130, 131, there is a reference to each one of the chakras, and it also references seed sounds. So these are slightly different than the ones I'm going to use tonight. In the manual you have lam, vam, ram, yam, ham, and om. And so that's one series of seed sounds. And then the ones that I'm going to use are all H ones. So we have Hraum, Hroom, Ram, Hreem, Hreem, Hum, and Om. And so just make sure you're in a kind of comfortable seat to start for a little bit of storytelling. And then, very paranoid, I'm going to spill my water. I'm on carpet tonight. So I have a couple blocks. So if you want to use blocks, there's a lunge where you might want to use the blocks, and maybe Parigasana, the gate pose, and then there's optionally a blanket. So remember that when you get to doing your own practical exams, the only prop you're allowed to have is a single blanket. So you get to get creative for your practical exams. So the first seed sound is Hraum. And Hraum is associated with the Muladhara chakra, associated with the root, with the color red, and the sense of smell. So as you're in your seated posture, you can visualize that root chakra. And you're welcome to chant along with me if you like, or you can just receive the sound if you like. So it's the word H-R-A-U-M. Hraum. Then we're going to move up from there to the shavasana chakra, so the sacral chakra. You could visualize this at the tip of the tailbone or in the center of the womb. I sometimes like to picture the shavasana chakra there. So this is associated with the color orange and with a sense of taste. And the seed sound for this is Hroom, H-R-O-O-M. Hroom. Then we move up to the manipura chakra, so the solar plexus. I like to visualize this myself as the diaphragm at the base of the lungs. Some people visualize it as the navel center. And it is associated with the color yellow and the sense of sight. And the seed sound associated with this is Hram, H-R-A-M. Hram. And then we'll move up to the anahata chakra, so the heart center. Heart center is associated with the color green and the sense of touch. And the seed sound for this energetic center is Hreim, H-R-A-I-M. Hreim. 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 And moving up again to the Vishuddhi chakra, or the throat center, associated with the color blue and with the sense of hearing, and with the seed sound Hrim, H-R-I-M. Hrim, Hrim, Hrim. Moving up to the ajna chakra, the third eye, associated with the sixth sense, and the color indigo. And the ajna's seed sound is Haum, H-A-U-M. Haum, Haum, Haum. And then the Vishuddhi, the crown chakra, associated with the color purple. Did I say Vishuddhi? I did. Sahasrara, the crown chakra. That would have been on tape too. So associated with the color purple, you can picture the crown chakra at the very crown, the top of the skull, or floating above the top of the head. And our crown chakra is beyond the senses. And the seed sound is Om. 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 And from here, we're going to move into a standing position. So you can bring yourself into Tadasana. Just shake things out, walk things out if you need to. And we're going to carry on with our seed sound, Om. And just enjoy mountain pose. So mountain pose, we're going to use as our balance pose. So of our 6 families of poses, this is our balance pose for tonight. So to really get into the sense of balance that we might find in Tadasana, we'll start at the feet and we'll work our way up. So you can shift your weight a little bit forward and back, shift your weight a little bit side to side. See if you can feel where center is within that. You can spread your toes, lift them, and let them settle back down onto the mat. So you can feel the balls of the feet into the floor, the heels into the floor, and the arch is lifted. And then from there, we'll move up to the knees. So if you find that you're locking your knees, bend your knees. You can imagine that you have an arch in your feet, an arch that creates lift, really close to the earth, and that in the knees you will have a second arch that hovers above the arch of the feet. And then we'll move up to the pelvis. So if you find that your pelvis is tilted forward or tilted back, or the belly is sticking out, or your back feels really flat, see if you can give the pelvis a rock and let the pelvis find its neutral position above the knees. And then think about that third arch, the lift of the pelvic floor, hovering above the arch of the knees. We'll move up to the solar plexus. So in the solar plexus, you can imagine the diaphragm at the base of the lungs, lifting ever so slightly up with every exhale, creating another arch, hovering above the arch of the pelvis. You can give your shoulders a little bit of a roll, let your chest be broad and open, let your chin draw ever so slightly in, and swallow. And as you swallow, imagine an arch in the back of the throat lifting up, floating above the arch of the solar plexus. And at the very top of the head, the arch of the skull floating above the arch of the throat. So all these lovely arches in the body as you just stand here, perhaps allowing the eyes to close and allowing yourself to breathe and feeling all that nice vibrant energy in the body. Again, you can receive the sound or chant Om along with me and picture that Om creating all that nice stimulation at the crown of the head. then bring your awareness down to the third eye in the very center of the head. And we'll move back to the sound home. And imagine that the sound home, home, is creating a little subtle vibration in the very center of the head, almost like vibrating a pit in the center of a peach. Hum. 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 And then you can let your arms float up. If it's available, you can come into Shiva Mudra, so you can let the index fingers connect, let the rest of the fingers cross, and just reach the fingers up and bring your awareness back to the throat. So that beautiful color of blue associated with the throat, this place when it's balanced allows us to speak with conviction and to truly hear when we listen. And we'll repeat the sound Hrim again, H-R-I-M. Hrim. 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 And then from our Shiva Mudra, we're just going to let the arms sweep down. We're going to just gently bend the knees. We're going to let the head and neck dangle. So just coming into a little bit of a forward fold. You can slide the hands up the shins, a little bit of a half forward fold, and slide the hands back down for full forward fold. We're not going to stay here for very long, so we're going to come back to this in a little bit. So from here, you can just let your hands find their way to the floor. You can bring your knees to the floor. If you find that we're going to bring the right leg first forward. So if you find that your left knee is not a huge fan of the floor on its own, you can bring a blanket underneath the left knee. And blocks are an option for the hands. Carpet always makes it interesting. So you're going to have the right foot forward, and you're just going to sink a little bit here. So you're just going to allow for a little bit of openness through the left quadricep, but not a forcing sort of hanging in the ligaments. And again, blocks, if you have them, you can root into the blocks. You can lift and reset that back knee if you need. If the body's not quite warm enough for this yet, you can come into a pose called pinwheel. So you can just have your right knee above your right heel and your left hip above your left knee. And we're going to come back to the seed sound Hrim, and then we're just going to hang out in whichever version of the pose feels comfortable for you. If you're in the pinwheel position, because we are doing anahata chakra stimulation, you might feel nice to have the hands resting on the heart, and then you'll feel all that lovely vibration in the heart center as you repeat the sound Hrim. So just allow the heart to be very spacious and open in whichever position you're in. Hrim. 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 Just pausing and breathing here. And imagine a radiant green light swirling in the heart center. Heart is open, receptive, capable of giving and receiving. And then you can slowly bring yourself back and just bring yourself into a kneeling position. And we'll just do a little bit of a flow just to get the body moving a bit, and we'll come back into stillness on the other side. So you can just gently inhale as you reach your arms up, and exhale, bring your hands back to the back of your hips. The brow can come down to the floor, or if it feels like the floor is a bit too far away, you can bring a block underneath the brow. And you can inhale and come up, and this time exhale just down into low kneel. And we'll just repeat that a couple more times. So inhale and reach up. Exhale into that adapted child's pose. And inhale, reach. And exhale, hands to the heart. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, back into child's. And inhale, reach. And exhale, hands to the heart. And then we'll come into anahata or low lunge on side 2. So you can have the left foot forward. And again, you might come into a deeper lunge if the body's feeling ready for it. I know we haven't done a whole lot of warm up for this particular sequence. Or again, you could come into that gentler variation, more of the pinwheel variation. If you're doing this with hands at the heart, just bring your hands into the opposite cross of the cross that you had the first time around. And we'll come back to repeating the sound hrim. 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 Just soft and easy breath. Again, lots of space in the heart. And then you can bring yourself back into a kneeling position. And we're just going to do a little bit of movement here, twist style. So you can just inhale, reach the arms up. Exhale, twist over to the right. Inhale, arms up. And exhale, twist left. Inhale and come up. Exhale, twist right. Maybe see if you can just draw in slightly through the diaphragm at the base of the lung. So engaging into the area of the manipura chakra. Inhale, up. Exhale, pulling that diaphragm up just a little bit. One more time each side. Inhale, reach. Exhale. And inhale, reach. And exhale. And then we're going to come into Cobra, which is another manipura chakra, solar plexus chakra activator. And I'm going to give you lots of different options here. So if the pelvis under the mat, under the blanket under the pelvis feels good, you can do that. You can have your hands in the sort of traditionally cued cobra pose where the hands are underneath the shoulders. You can have the hands lifted slightly off the mat. If you're comfortable to go into a slightly deeper cobra, you can lift up and do that. And if you're just feeling a really chill version tonight, you can always just come and rest your head on top of your hands. So if you're finding there's lots of low back tension, remember you can bring your feet a little wider apart. And Miss Annalie, you can either do this with the bolsters for support in the way that we talked about in those sessions where we did get a chance to come together, or you could bring yourself to the wall. So if I'm doing this at the wall, I will usually bring my elbow near my waist and I'll flex my wrist and I'll pull like I was trying to pull myself up the wall. It'll create a nice little back bend shape. So like so. So feet are a little bit away from the wall, knees are a little bit bent, and there's a nice little thoracic bend just kind of naturally arising there. So lots of options. And our seed sound is hram, H-R-A-A-M. Hram. 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 And then picking a position of your choice just for holding for a few rounds of breath here. So visualize the manipura, the diaphragm at the base of the lungs or the navel center, if that's where it feels more connected for you. You You can think about the color yellow and think about the element of fire. So fire is a strong element associated with our manipura chakra, with our gut, our instinct, and our sense of self-confidence. And then as a bit of a counter pose, you can just bring yourself down, let your arms come out to the side. You can bring your head to either side, bend up your knees, and just let your feet sway side to side. And then you can just flip your head to side two, and you can keep swaying your feet. And then we're going to come into uttanasana. And again, I know we haven't done a whole lot of warming up prior to this. So I will again give you lots of nice options. So you can do this without blocks or with blocks. If you have a chair handy or a wall handy and you're just not really feeling it tonight, you want something a little more relaxed, remember that is also an option. So uttanasana variations, you can keep a little bend in your knees, come all the way down and dangle in the full pose, or you can bring your hands onto blocks. So feet are nice and rooted into the floor here, tailbone is tipped back, and crown of the head is reaching forward. Or if you're wanting something really gentle, you can bring your hands or your forearms into the seat of a chair. So yogi's choice. And we're going to use the seat sound hrum. Okay, so find the uttanasana that feels good for you. If it's too much of an edge, especially the full one, since we haven't warmed up a lot, I'm going to need to get a towel for that. Continue in your uttanasana, and I will be right back. I need one of those little screens you can put up when something crazy goes on the TV. Momentary disruption of this program. This is pretty consistent for me. I usually spill water no matter where I go. Oh, and this is really good timing because we're going into the sacral chakra. And the sacral chakra is associated with water. So you can find your uttanasana. You're probably still dangling there wondering what the heck's going on. So tailbone area, you can picture that. That's definitely affected by our uttanasana pose. Or the area of the uterus or the womb. So associated with fertility, with creativity, with flow and water. And we're going to use the seat sound hrum. So visualize that sound hrum just resonating in the area of the womb or the tailbone. Hrum. 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 In appreciation of the fact that you guys have been here longer than I have, we'll move on. So we're going to head into downward facing dog. So you can bring yourself down onto your knees. If you have a chair on your mat, bring it out of the way. Actually, I'll show you a chair version of down dog too if anyone's just having kind of a chill night. It would be a lot like your chair version of uttanasana. And again, variation at the wall. I know you can't see my wall necessarily. A wall dog's another nice variation you might practice here. So you're going to press your hands into the wall. You're going to try and get your heels more or less underneath your hips. Draw your ears in line with your arms. Pull the tummy in a little bit. Keep a little bend in the knees. So lots going on in the body there. Or the traditional downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Whatever is calling to you tonight. And we're going to go into Raum. So the seat sound Raum, associated with the pelvic floor, the root chakra, the color red, the element earth.
So our root is also associated with our hips and our legs and our feet. So you might be able to feel those all really getting nicely energized by this pose. When you're ready, you can drop your knees and you can let yourself come and rest in child's pose. So child's pose of your position, of your choice, balasana, you can have your hands back or forward. You can have your fists stacked underneath your brow. You can have a block underneath your brow. Arms might be active, they can be passive. Balasana. So a really nice little counter pose. And just so you know what I did, where, and why, just in the spirit of a Soya style class, the cobra pose was the back bend for the class. The inversion was uttanasana, or standing forward fold. You will also see that sometimes written as pada hastasana. The forward fold was downward facing dog, or adho mukha svanasana. And so we're going to play a little bit with the sun salutation that is in my slightly wet book now. So let me see if I can find that again. So that's on page 124 if your IYT manual is handy. And then this piece is not in your manual, but I'm sure I can take a picture of and share the variation. So this is the seed sounds associated with each one of the portions of the sun salutation. So let's play a little bit with that. You get to see me staring at lots of reference material tonight. So we're going to bring ourselves up to the top of the mat, and we're going to start with the sound Hram with our hands at the heart. So Hram in mountain pose. We're going to bring the arms up for high mountain pose, and we're going to bring in the sound Hrim. We're going to fold into uttanasana and bring in the sound Hroom, H-R-O-O-M. We're going to bring the right leg back for the low lunge, and we're going to bring in the sound Harim. And then you can either go into downward facing dog, or you can go into plank, and you're going to hear or say the sound Hraum. And then we're going to drop into a pose called ashtangasana. So this is a really popular pose in the Shivananda and Gitananda, very classical yoga lineages, but you don't see it many other places other than those very traditional places. So we let the chin touch, we let the chest touch, we let the hands and the knees and the feet touch. So that's 8 points of the body touching, and that's why this is called ashtangasana, or 8-limb pose. And then we bring ourselves forward and, oh sorry, I didn't say the word, back into ashtangasana and raha. And then we're going to come forward into cobra, either baby cobra or full cobra, and say back into downward facing dog, and we're going to say Hrim. So we're repeating the seed sounds, 2 cycles of the same sounds as we go through this. So we'll bring the right foot forward and drop the left knee and come back into Hroom. We'll bring the left foot forward and fold and come into Hreim. And then we'll bring our arms up, Plaum, and bring our hands to the heart, back to Hraha. So you're welcome to chant the sounds or hear the sounds. And these are all said to be chakra activating or stimulating. So it adds a nice little layer into your sun salutation practice. So starting in mountain with Hram. Hram, bringing the arms overhead for Hrim. Hrim, folding into uttanasana for Hroom. Hroom,
Right foot back for anahata and Hrim. Hrim. Plank or down dog and Hraum. Hraum. Ashtangasana and Raha. Raha. Which always makes me laugh. Come into Cobra. Cobra for Hram. Hram. Back in a downward facing dog for Hrim. Hrim. Left foot's going to come forward and we're going to drop down into Hrum. Hrum. Oh, that was supposed to be the right foot forward. Let's do that again. Right foot's going to come forward for Hrum. Hrum. Left foot's going to come forward for uttanasana and Hrim. Hrim. Float the arms overhead for Hraum. Hraum. Hands to the heart for Raha. Raha. And then back to Hram. Hram. Arms up. Hrim. Hrim. Arms down. Hrum. Hrum. Left leg back. Hrim. Hrim. Right foot back. Hraum. Hraum. Ashtangasana. Raha. Raha. Cobra and Hram. Hram. Downward facing dog and Hrim. Hrim. Left foot forward on Janayasana and Hrum. Hrum. Right foot forward and Hrim. Hrim. High mountain and Hraum. Hraum. Hands to the heart and Raha. Raha. And then we'll pause and see if you can visualize all of those little energetic points along the body. So the pelvic floor, the sacral area, solar plexus area, the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown of the head. So all getting a little bit of stimulation by this action of moving, holding in asana, and repeating those bija or seed sounds. So we're going to try one more round on the right and one more round on the left. So hands at the heart for Hram. Hram. Hands overhead for Hrim. Hrim. Folding into uttanasana for Hrum. Hrum. Right foot back, right knee dropping for Hrim. Hrim. Plank or down dog for Hraum. Hraum. Ashtangasana for Raha. Raha. Bhujangasana for Hram. Hram. Adho Mukha Svanasana for Hrim. Hrim. Anjaneyasana for Hrum. Hrum. Uttanasana for Hrim. Hrim. Uttanasana, high mountain for Hraum. Hraum. Hands to the heart for Raha. Raha. Last time through left side, hands to the heart for Hram. Hram. Hands overhead for Hrim. Hrim. Hands to the floor for Hrum. Hrum. Left leg back, Anjaneyasana and Hrim. Hrim. Phalangasana, plank pose, or downward facing dog for Hraum. Hraum. Anjaneyasana, ashtangasana. 8-pointed pose for Raha. Raha. Bhujangasana or cobra pose for Hram. Hram. Downward facing dog for Hrim. Hrim. Left foot forward, left knee dropping for Hrum. Hrum. Right foot coming forward. Coming into Hrem. Hrem. High mountain. Raum. Hands to the heart. And coming into Raha. Raha. And just pause here in Tadasana. And again, feel all those nice little arches in the body. All the nice little chakras or nerve plexi. Areas of dense concentration of energy. Find that hopefully sort of invigorated breath and happy mind. And then nice inhale through the nose, sigh out through the mouth, and shake. Shake it all out. Grab a little drink of water. Awesome work, everybody. Woo! My now partially empty water. And then we're gonna play. I can find my sheet still. Yes. We have not yet done a side bend or a twist. So we're gonna add in Parigasana or gate pose and Parivriti Sukhasana or revolved easy seated pose. And we have no seed sounds for these. So something a little less. Woohoo! So going to bring a blanket underneath either one of your knees. And I think we'll skip the block for tonight. We'll just do blanket underneath either one of your knees. So the other knee is extended out to the side. And we did practice a little bit of Parigasana way back then when we were able to meet in person. So again, you could do this with the toes pointed straight out to the side, on an angle. You could also walk this foot a little further forward if that helps you to feel more balanced. Or I know I said I wouldn't use a block, but you could potentially pop this knee on a block and curl these toes under if you're looking for other ways to make the pose feel more stable. You can bring your hand on that same side to the outside edge of the thigh. I tend to rotate my palm up. Other people like to have the palm down. Doesn't do a lot of huge difference in terms of the way the arm's behaving higher up, so I wouldn't get too worried about one way or the other, just whatever feels good. And then we're going to inhale as we reach the other arm up, and exhale, come over a little bit into the pose, and just hold here. And if you're finding this is a lot, you could just kind of ease out. You could cradle that back of the head. You could bend the arm into more of a cactus arm. This hand could come and be more of a stabilizing presence on the leg. So remember to modify as you need with the intention here of stretching out the muscles of the side of the body. So you want to take at least a few nice, deep, easy breaths here. And just feel the lung pushing out into the rib cage. And you can bring yourself out. So you can wheel that hand down, reach away through the toe, reach away through the fingertips. Counter pose that I like more than the pose itself. And then you can switch sides. So opposite leg can come out. Again, toes might go straight out, go to the side, or they might come out on a bit of an angle. And again, you could bring this foot further forward if you need. Again, you could pop this knee on a block, curl the toes under if you need. So find the happy place for you. And then you're going to, again, come into hand position of your choice, and you're going to let the other arm reach up. So we're going to inhale here, exhale over into the side bend. And relax the breath, breathe deeply here. And then you can bring yourself out and come down and rest. So Vajrasana, or kneeling pose, or hero's pose, this is sometimes called. Just letting yourself find this little bit of stillness and ease after Parigasana. Noticing again the Sushumna, that central energetic line, and any sense of enlivening along that central channel in the body. And then we're going to come into Parivritya Sukhasana. So the revolved seated pose, and I'm just going to do this from the side, partly for sound and partly for better optics for you guys. So you can cross your legs, whatever your customary cross is. If you're finding that your knees are sitting a bit high, you can create a little roll with a blanket and kind of pop the pelvis on the edge of the roll. That can create a bit of elevation. And sometimes people will also elevate with a block. So if a block is comfortable underneath the little sit bone spaces there, you can elevate on a block, or maybe a block with a blanket on top. So Sukhasana, easy seated pose. Parivriti is revolved. Okay, so we're going to play with twisting, and I am going to repeat seed sounds that stimulate the chakras from the root up to the crown. So you don't have to worry about memorizing them or repeating them. You can just, again, receive the sound. So you can inhale with yourself in this neutral position. And on the exhale, you can twist over to your right. I'm just going to repeat a few rounds of chakra activation from the bottom to the top. Hraum, hrum, hram, hreim, hrim, haum, Hraum, hrum, hram, hreim, hrim, haum, Hraum, hrum, hram, hreim, hrim, haum, Unwind out of your twist, give your shoulders a little bit of a roll, and reverse the cross of your legs. And then you don't need to pivot, but I will, again, for sound and visual. So, again, with that nice non-habitual cross of the legs. You're going to inhale here, and exhale and twist to your left. And again, soft, easy stance here, crown of the head directly over the center of the pelvis. So these cues in your twists to not slouch and to not be really floppy and passive, this is about chakra activation. So when the spinal column, the Sushumna, the chakras are aligned, then the magic of your yoga practice will start to unfold. Hraum, hrum, hram, hreim, hrim, haum, Hraum, hrum, hram, hreim, hrim, haum, Hraum, hrum, hram, hreim, hrim, haum, And then you can unwind, give those shoulders a little bit of a roll. You can bring yourself off your block, bring your legs out in front, give them a little bit of a wiggle. So something that I didn't include in your class that we will be asking you guys to include in your lesson plans is some kind of pranayama. I think that the seed sounds count a little bit as pranayama. They're very similar in terms of activating energy in the body. And we only have an hour tonight, so I don't want to throw a whole lot of other extra things at you. But I would like you just to come and settle into a comfortable shavasana now. So if there's any other movement the body's kind of craving on the way there, you can bring it in. And then I will, it's so weird to lie in shavasana as a teacher. Normally you get back up and sit, but for the purposes of joining you guys, because we're videoing, I will absolutely lay down. So one nice little way of doing this, if you have a lot of low back tension and you have a chair handy, is just stick your legs on a chair. It's really soothing. It's kind of like legs up the wall, but it's a little bit less, got too many layers going on here. It's a little bit less what's the word I want to use? Less complicated, I say, as I make it look really complicated. Less complicated to get into than some of the other inversion poses. So cheating a little bit in shavasana in order for the chakras to be evenly aligned, which they generally are in shavasana. We want the whole body to be aligned. We mostly are. The legs are up, so the pelvis would still be nice and aligned here. This is partly why shavasana is cued as this very neutral pose, because if we were focusing on one chakra or another in an asana, by the time we get to the end of the class, we want the chakras to be evenly activated. So now you can just settle here. So finding some comfort, finding some easy breath, letting the mind just be at ease. There was a lot of mental work in our class tonight, so hopefully this little mini nidra or yogic sleep portion is nice and relaxing. If it's comfortable and available for you to have your mind aware and alert to something during shavasana, you can follow my voice. And if you're just drifting into a nice, relaxed kind of in-between place, that's fine as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the Brahma Sutra. So B-R-A-H-M-A, Brahma, and Sutra, S-U-T-R-A. So this is translated as the golden thread, and it really is the same thing as a Sushumna. So as you lie in shavasana, you can picture this divine, golden, shimmering thread that travels into the body from far below into the pelvic floor. It travels through the Muladhara chakra, the root, through this Svadhisthana chakra, the sacral area, through the manipura chakra, the navel center, continues to travel up through the anahata, the heart center, through the vishuddhi, the throat center, through the ajna, the third eye, and through the sahasrara, or the crown. And then the Brahma Sutra, the golden thread, continues to travel out through the top of the head and far beyond up into the sky. So the Brahma Sutra you can imagine as almost like a marionette string, so something that creates life within the form of your body. As you breathe, you can imagine prana or energy gliding up and down the Brahma Sutra, from the crown to the root, and from the root to the crown. Imagine energy radiating out of that center line and infusing the whole body with warmth and with joy. And then allow yourself to spend a little bit of time here just focusing on the breath and on the state of inner happiness. If you find that the mind is restless and eager to move on to its next activity, help the mind to stay here, tether the mind, yoke the mind through the counting of a few breaths. So the next exhale that you notice, you can count this one as 11, and the one after that as 10. You can slowly start to count your way backwards towards 1. If you lose track of the count, come back to 11 and start over again. And then you can move away from counting the breath and come back to just noticing it again. You can slowly start to wiggle out your fingers, wiggle out your toes, stretch your arms out overhead, stretch your feet out down below, as though you were just waking up from a long, deep sleep. Give your knees a little bit of a squeeze. You can either roll over to your right side or your left side and just cradle your head with your arm for a couple of breaths. Just allow yourself to find the comfort there. And then you can press yourself back up and find your way back into Sukhasana, so your easy seated pose. And just let yourself see again if you can feel that sense of evenness and balance throughout the body. So that combination of sukshma ease and stula effort, just floating in between those two qualities in the physical body. And my reading, I might have lost my place. It's going to be that kind of night tonight. But I think it is near the beginning. There it is. And it's lovely. So I really like having a book that you go back to as a resource, because I find I often find things that I hadn't really noticed in them before. So this is from Anahata Judith's book, Wheels of Life. The tantric philosophies from which the chakras emerge are a philosophy of weaving. Their many threads weave a tapestry of reality that is both complex and elegant. Tantra is a philosophy that is both pro-life and pro-spiritual. It weaves spirit into matter and back into its original whole, and yet continues to move that whole along its spiral of evolution. That's a really beautifully worded passage. So I think we will close tonight with 3 Oms. And so you're welcome again to chant them or hear them. If you visualize your Oms starting at the root and moving up to the crown of the head, that is the power of your own voice helping to activate energy in your own body. So just letting the hands find their way to the heart center. Just a nice relaxing inhale through the nose and a sigh out through the mouth. Namaste. Thanks for joining me tonight, beautiful yogis. And hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. And get in touch if you have any questions or thoughts. And we'll meet online again soon.